a podcast hosted by Joe Dietrich, Joe on the mic, Leader Talk. All right, guys, we are back on our next episode, and we have Adam Jones on board here today. Thank you, Adam, for being on. And I'll just do a quick introduction for him. Adam Jones has been in love with leadership since he was 16 years old when he first started to lead small teams as he attended flight school. He believes every person has potential to lead and develop high-performance teams, but most of them haven't been properly equipped to do so. I totally agree. For 10 years, Adam served in the U.S. Army, and finished his career as a Black Hawk pilot and company commander. Now he has combined his professional experience as a project manager, Army pilot, and consultant for Fortune 500 companies to empower business leaders with communication frameworks so they can finally access their leadership potential. Adam, welcome on the show. I appreciate you coming on, brother.
Oh man, so good to be with you. Thank you, Joe. I appreciate you having me share a little bit, spend some time with you.
Yeah, man. And you know what? I totally agree with what you said, what you have in your bio, because where it says that people haven't been properly equipped to do so as leaders. And tell us a little bit of what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, I think a lot of us, we just haven't seen the right leaders in our life, whether we're not opening our eyes and we're not noticing what's in front of us, or people are not slowing down for us. I remember I heard this unbelievable quote. And this is just who I am. I'm a man of faith, so I share this pretty quickly. But I remember I heard it said, we want to live a life like Jesus, but we don't slow down to walk at his pace, right? He slowed down. He spent time with others. He was able to be interrupted often. And probably it never seemed like you were interrupting him. So with leaders, I think we have to be more aware of this. We can't just keep moving 100 miles a minute and miss everyone in front of us in that moment.
Wow. That is a strong statement. And you know what? I was talking to a friend of mine, another brother in Christ, just yet today. And we were kind of talking about the same thing, going so fast that we're running ahead of Jesus instead of spending time with him and actually listening to what he has. Because I gave this real quick story. My first transition out of the military, because I'm an Army veteran too. It was back in 2003. And I got out, didn't know really what to do with my life because they said, oh yeah, we go through the whole process of transitioning. They don't really teach you too much. Back then, they didn't teach you too much. But I wanted to get in real estate. So we got into real estate and we thought God wanted us to do it, which he did, but we were going too fast. We're acquiring too many properties too quickly without having the experience to manage the one we initially got. So we got ahead of the game and God was trying telling us to slow down, but we weren't listening. So we ran into trouble. We had to file bankruptcy and do all kinds of other stuff. And we learned we learned a very hard lesson at that time. But yeah, what you said is critical because of leadership. And you have a program or a business called Mountain Movers. Can you tell us a little bit about Mountain Movers?
Absolutely. Yeah. Hey, I want to elaborate on something you said too, because It is so important. We are not trained to get out of the military. And that's kind of where I come in with some of my consulting and my training services. I am helping people understand these things they lost when they got out of the military that no one warned them about. And then from there, you were never trained. You were trained to go in, and you were trained in a very rigid and strong manner to go in. And then you just come out and you think you're just going to adapt to the world that's in front of you without any training, when we've gone through this mindset of years of being trained, and then you lose that training. So anyways, that's something I absolutely, I'm very passionate about. Is I realized I kind of lost myself after I got out of the military just for a moment. And I struggled with that. And I was like, man, who am I without my uniform now that I don't have it anymore? And who am I now that I'm not flying Blackhawks? And that all got solved. I found a new mission, and in that mission came motivation. So anyways, Mountain Movers. Yeah. So this is really exciting, Joe. Since you and I spoke, Mountain Movers has become Mountain Movers Consulting. And then the LLC and all that switched over to that too. And the reason is, I want to focus more on listening to that person in front of me than providing just a framework that's a cookie cutter framework for how to move a mountain. What I realized that, and this is something for everyone out there, take action and then you'll gain more clarity. I took action and I realized, you know what? I probably shouldn't teach people how to move mountains. I think Jesus already did that. So instead, I'm going to teach people how the mountains have formed. I'm going to help them with transitions and training. So Mountain Movers is here to still help you break your mountains, to build your leadership. But by doing so, it's really a customized approach to figuring out where that person is in their life and then helping them realize maybe some mental mountains that have formed that need to be moved.
Yeah, I think that is so key, and I am so glad that you're taking on this mission, because we as people in general, we need to have sort of that bridge to go from one transition to another. Because when people retire, there's a transition that takes place, and a lot of times people are like, well, what do I do now? So, and in the military, I know for myself, when I first ETS'd out, I did my expired time of service for, lack of people that don't know the military, but you have a contract, and when it ends, it's your expired time of service. So my expired time of service back in 2003, I was going through a difficult time. Like you said, identity. Who am I? I just spent the last 9 years of my life being in a green suit. Well, back then it was the old BDUs, which was, the black, the green and gray. And it's changed quite a bit since then. But I had no idea what to do with my life. And what are some of the things that I guess you can help some of these transitioning people that are going to be listening to this, veterans, even if they're not veterans? What are some of the things you can, I guess, give them a little help on?
Yeah, so powerful, so powerful. So I think for me, one of the biggest things I had to realize was, okay, so the military teaches us how to measure and how to perform, right? If you just, sometimes what we do is we don't slow down enough to process all the things we were taught, and we just think everyone else knows it. Basically, one of the first things I teach anyone is you are more than a measurement. I know as a Black Hawk pilot, and I did that in the Army National Guard in Colorado. In the Army National Guard, I was flying Black Hawks, and I just remember always feeling like I was being measured. Everything was a performance. Everything was a rating. There were surprise check rides, and then there were scheduled check rides. And, it's just, I'm like, I feel like I'm always under this measure, like the ruler is out, figuring out where is Adam at right now in this time of his life. And it's like, you couldn't have an off day. And I think what we do is we take that into our family, we take that into our community, and we feel that we always have to be on and we always have to perform. And when we stop performing, what can happen is we lose ourselves because the performance ended. And what I learned, not through myself, through time with God and through a lot of mentorship and coaching from others, I started realizing that we need to start with who we are. The identity part needs to be fixed first, the be and then the do, not the do and then the be, because then the doing becomes who you are. And that's not correct, because you can't do it forever. I was never a Black Hawk pilot. I flew Black Hawks. And what's funny, Joe, is I always told people that. I was aware of this. I was aware of those vets who never let go of their past, right? And I'm sure you've seen it, and we probably both have been there. And it's like they just can't stop talking about the military. In the civilian world, they can only relate to that to such an extent, right?
Right.
So you're not really connecting with people when all you talk about is your prior service. You can start with that, but you got to go into what they care about and what you can connect on. So I don't know. It's just something that really became a focus of mine, was how do we get healed in this? And the first thing you can do is figure out who you are entirely in a way that will never change. For me, I was a son of the Most High King, right? I mean, I am a Christian. I'm a believer, and that gave me my identity. That worked for me, and it worked for me big time, because once I said, okay, I can always be that. For my whole life, I can be that, and everything else I can add on to that. That's how it worked for me.
Wow. Wow. No, that is tremendous, because the thing that I've always talked about in leadership too is first identifying who you are and the whole spectrum of things. And it's true. I was in the military for 23 years, and that was a part of my life that wasn't my life. While I was there, I was still a Christian. And that's who my identity was. I just happened to be in the military at the time, but I was still a Christian. I was still saved under the grace of God. I was still his child. But I had a spot in the military at that time to affect and to be effective in that position. And I think that's important for people to realize, as well, as when they get out, you're still that person. You're still, like for me, Joe Dietrich. I'm not Joe Dietrich E7, and that's who I always will be. So now, like you said, the mission changes. And so now we got to identify what that mission is that we want to pursue in life. And I think that's so great that we help, you help people to identify what that next mission is. Because the mission, there is a purpose in the mission. It's not part of our identity, but there's purpose as we go along in life to, hey, as I'm being who I am, what can I do where I'm at to help others, to help myself and other people go to that next level of life. And in your Mountain Movers, you have the 5 C's. And I want our audience to know what are those 5 C's all about? And if you can give us a couple examples that might help our listeners to understand more about what you do and how you can help them grow in life.
Absolutely. Yeah. So one thing you said too, is you talked about how you can still be a Christian no matter where you go. And one thing I did is I took these 5 C's and I created a program called Kingdom Warrior. And Kingdom Warrior falls within Mountain Movers Consulting, but it is all about helping Christians just get equipped. And now here's the thing, there's different curriculums. Some are for Christians, some are for, hey, just in general, you want to learn about the 5 C's, but Kingdom Warrior is specific for, you got to be a believer to believe what I'm going to teach in Kingdom Warrior. So here's the deal. The first of the 5 C's is the one thing that always comes to all of our minds when we say, man, I got out of the military and this is missing. Ever since I got out, I've lost this. It's funny, I could ask you right now, and I'm sure you know the answer, but there is something that starts with the letter C that you felt was missing the second you got out after just maybe a couple more weeks went on. Camaraderie. You lost camaraderie, right? And this is that brothers and sisters in arms mentality of, hey, we had someone that was in the fight with us. When I talk about mountain climbing, because there's mountain moving and there's mountain climbing, when we're climbing, you got to have someone with you on that climb, and you're going to build camaraderie just through the climb itself. And that's what we did in the military, is we climbed together, right? We surfed together, and whether you deployed or you were always, back in the US, either way, that's totally fine. And the thing is, you gain camaraderie quickly. At basic training, you gain camaraderie, right?
Yeah,
so you got camaraderie. Yeah, exactly. So that thing's gone, right? Because you don't find it again in the civilian world unless you're intentional about it. Mm-hmm. And that's why I like to teach the 5 C's that we lost as the way to start out, because when you realize what you lost, then you know how to recreate it or regain it. You can find things that fill that up. So camaraderie. Second one, I'm gonna go a little bit faster now, is community. And what I meant by community is that we're better together in like a family structure. When you joined the military, you showed up to a base and that base was ready to receive you. They knew all about you before you even got there, just because of the uniform you wore, the rank you were, where you came from training, and this community was ready for you. Also, families are part of the community aspect. So you could have camaraderie, like you and I could have camaraderie, but the way we create community is our families get engaged with each other too, right?
Oh, definitely.
The third one is a challenge. You had never-ending challenges through those measurements that we talked about, through those trainings, and with the challenges, that's also a mission. So when we talk about your mission produces your motivation, in this case, it's the same way with your challenge. It's a hand-in-hand word. It's called the 5 C's, not the 4 C's and the 1 M, right? So the fourth one is correction. And this is where a lot of us, we start saying, hey, I'm like losing it, like I'm drifting, I'm frustrated, I feel like I'm not winning anymore. And the reason we feel that way is because we were used to being corrected. There's a huge difference from self-discipline and imposed discipline. And in the military, we actually weren't taught self-discipline that well. Discipline was imposed on us, and it was a good thing, right? Mm-hmm. And the last one is coaching. You had a coach. You 100% had a coach. You had an NCO or an officer who was there side by side with you, who was helping you develop. And you can see that in their example, and you can see that in how they came alongside of you and actually helped you progress.
Definitely. That guys, I'm telling you, later on, we're going to give out his link. I definitely highly advise anybody who's in the military, any veterans, to check out his program with the 5 C's. And I totally agree that one thing that I understand is highly important too is, like you said, community. Because we lose that community, we lose that camaraderie when we get out. Now, we don't have to. It depends on how close you were to your brothers and sisters in the military, that you can kind of still keep that community. Like for me, I was in Florida, and I'm now in Texas. So I'm kind of away from that former community I used to hang out with, and on the weekends and doing things. So right now it's like we're doing social media. So it's a very, very, very important. I'm glad Adam brought that up. Keep that community as best you can, even if it's over social media, because it keeps you kind of connected in a sort of way, and to reminisce, to like if you have a trouble when you get transitioned out, or you might be down or whatever, that you ping with those guys a little bit to keep the spirits up, to keep you going strong. And the reason why I bring that up, because we're heading towards the holidays. And sometimes if we're separated from ourselves, we shouldn't be. We should try to reach out, keep community, because during the holidays it can get a little down. And that's why when you said community, I was like, yeah, we need to touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, and it can't be transactional either. I think a lot of us, we approach community. Well, we don't approach community at all. We approach relationships as transactions. And I love what you said, Joe, about the online portion, because for me, that's where I just moved across country, right? I used to live in Colorado. Now I live in Pennsylvania. And since doing that, I lost community, a lot of it. And I'm regaining it, and I'm recreating it. But because of this program, I was able to figure out, okay, that's missing. Now here's some steps I can take to regain it. But the one thing for me has been virtual. I mean, it's the same thing with the church, right? It's one thing to watch a sermon. It's another thing for us to all just come online together and to just spend time together and slow down. I think there always needs to be a reason to get together, when it really shouldn't be the case anymore. We should just talk just to build that relationship up and to serve one another, right? It's not, hey, we have to get together to discuss this agenda item, or let's talk about yesterday's training or sermon. Why don't we just get online and see where it goes?
Yeah. I totally agree. And I've had to learn that myself about community. Because I just reach out to some guys that I know that are fellow Christians, just to tell them how my day went. Just say, hey, look, man, I had a great day, or no, I didn't have such a great day. Can you pray for me? And we'll talk about those things. Or, hey, man, I'm sick. I just need somebody to just empathize with my pain right now, or even just laugh at why I got sick, because it was my fault. But it's just different things can occur, and so I highly encourage people to think about community, even though, like you said, it's not transactional. It doesn't have to be I have to get something out of it, or maybe even just reach out to somebody on purpose to say, hey man, how you doing? Just to see how they're doing. Even if it's just a quick text, say, hey, stay strong, or just some weird emoji, just send it to them just to make them laugh. But there was something else I wanted to talk to you about, and when I was looking you up, and I was researching you a little bit, this key phrase came up, and it said lost mission, and you were talking about a lost mission, and how can someone regain that loss of a mission?
Yeah, I think you got to get really clear on why you're here. It has to go from the military giving you missions over and over. I mean, every single day you get a new mission. You get, quarterly missions, if you think of it in terms of that, right? There's always something coming. And it's because there was an intent behind it, right? As a company commander, the most important thing I could give my soldiers was a commander's intent. They can take that and run with it. They don't need to know the how. They just need to know the why. And then from there, here's some key things, key reasons we're doing this. And then, then you can refine the mission and run from that. So I think when you know that was happening and you're missing that, it's your job now to find the new mission. For me, my mission is to really be the light, right? My family and I, we believe in being the light and breaking mountains. We want to bring light to situations to see, when you look at life this way, everything becomes intentional again. You go from drifting to intentionality. And now you're going into a scenario and you see the atmosphere's off, right? Maybe it's not positive, or it's just not pleasant to be around right now. Maybe the conversations aren't good. And I look at it as upon myself as I got to brighten myself up, not to make it about me. We just got to give some light to the room. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And we got to change the atmosphere. And that's it. I mean, that becomes its own lifelong focus. So see, sometimes we make it an objective, like people think of a business mission, like I want to serve 1,000 clients by this time. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about something that will go with you everywhere, to where it just becomes so obvious that you are the light, you are the mountain mover. You know, in our case, like I said, you're the kingdom warrior who goes in and you change the atmosphere and you make things better for people.
Mm-hmm. And I also like that point of having some determination, some mission. And that goes back to what you were mentioning earlier about, like, when we have a purpose, we understand it in the military because somebody gives it to us. There's a commander's intent. We go forward with that commander's intent and we do it. But when we get out, we don't have a commander's intent. We do. Now, if you're a Christian, you have the commander's intent, which is the Lord. And he says, like you're saying, to be a light wherever you go. And that's good. And that's something that we need to hold on to. But sometimes we get in a rut. Mm-hmm. And we don't seem to, like, all right, God, you want me to do something. Well, what is it? And I think that's where self-leadership comes into play here, where we have to be the commander of our own destiny, you know, underneath God's guidance and direction. But we have to sit there and say, Lord, what is it that you actually want me to do? And with you, which I love it, Adam, you said, you know what? I want to help others to grow, learn, to discover their mission in life through Mountain Movers and the Mountain Movers LLC, especially with people that come out of the military, because Lord knows, I know some folks that came out, and that's another reason why for this platform, to share those resources that veterans can contact people like you and other folks that I've had on this podcast to say, look, there is a resource out there to help you define what it is that I should be doing in life to the glory of God and to help other people's just get out of the rut that they're in. And I like to hear you have Kingdom Warriors. So if anybody wants to reach out to you, what website can they go to, or how can they reach out to you?
I think the best way to get in touch with me right now, just because we're pivoting some things, would be the Captain Adam Jones. That's my Facebook. That's also my Instagram. You can tell I don't use Instagram as much. I'm not not the typical millennial, right? But at the same time, you know, the Captain Adam Jones is the way to get in touch with me. And I recommend you do that. You know, we just finished up this amazing training last weekend with a company called Jeremiah 2911 Incorporated. And I flew out to their location. We trained up some of their leaders, and we started getting them aware of their purpose as in this case, it was Christian men. And we just wanted to help them get more equipped to be the kingdom warrior that they were created to be. And I'll tell you what, they went out of there on fire. They went out of there with purpose. They were challenged, because as a coach, I have to challenge. Mm-hmm. You know, we have a lot of friends in our life, but we don't have a lot of coaches. So I can't be the friend. I got to be the coach. So in that case, if you want someone who's going to be real with you, then yes, this could be a great fit. And if you reach out to me on Facebook, we can connect. We can get you scheduled for a discovery session. And a quick 15-minute phone call to figure out what program might help you or your company. In this case, it was a whole company that we went in to help those team members really get more clear on how they can be used in this season of their life.
Yeah, man, that is so awesome. Now, I always ask this question because I love the answer that I get to this question. That everybody has different ways to answer this question, which is good. The question is, if you could tell your younger self one thing, what would it be?
You know, a no isn't a no permanently. It's a no for that season. That's my story with Flying Blackhawks. I was told no many times before finally, as a first lieutenant, I get the opportunity to go. And then that no became a really, really quick yes. Yes, you can go as long as you leave tomorrow. Yeah, we can leave tomorrow, you know, like, sure. So the point is, no's are not permanent. They're no's for a season. There might be something that you need to learn, young Adam. There might be something you need to learn in this season before that no can become a yes.
Yeah, and that's deep. That's deep because as younger people, I know I was the same way. And it wasn't just millennials. It was me. I'm a Gen Xer. Even then, like if somebody told you no, you get frustrated. Say, what do you mean no? And we don't sit there and think like, man, do I need to get some more experience? Do I do I need to just wait a little bit longer? What's the real reason of the no? Or sometimes we just take it to the extreme. Well, they said no because I'm worthless. And that's not the case. Sometimes we do need a little bit of more maturing. We hate that word. Oh, you need to mature a little bit more. But it's like, well, is there truth behind that? And to take and say, well, ask the question, well, why is it the no? What's the reason for the no? Well, we need you to do this. It's a couple of steps. Hey, they just gave you a roadmap to get to the yes. If you ask for it, if you listen for it, there might be a hidden little roadmap in what the response might be. But I love that. I love that. That's a good question. I mean, a good answer, because everybody gives me a different version. Some guy told me, you know what? I would tell my younger self not to take myself so seriously, because he had a chip on his shoulder. And he walked around with this chip on his shoulder, and he missed out on a lot of opportunities because he was so abrasive, and he just missed out a lot of things in life. So, but I was like, man, that's great, great, great. So, for our audience, is there any last words that you'd like to leave for them?
Yeah, people need to see you move your mountain. That is why Mountain Movers Consulting was formed, because there are so many mental mountains in your life right now that are stopping you from becoming the leader you were created to be. And you are not your mountain. That's the biggest lie. I've heard people say that to me in my coaching programs that I've been helping them with, that are going through these frameworks. And we're sharing with them, hey, look, you're not your mountain. Because sometimes they're like, well, maybe I am my mountain. And they think that's a cool insight. I'm like, you're not your mountain. Your mountain was formed through a moment to where you took something and that thought became a reality, and you allowed it to grow and grow. And your mountain will continue to grow until you move it, right? With faith the size of a mustard seed. And it's not about the amount of faith you have, which is why Jesus used that measurement, right? Faith the size of mustard seed. We all know, well, it's only a tiny bit of faith. It's actually not correct. It's not only that it's just a tiny bit of faith, it's that it's not about the measure of faith. It's about the measure of unbelief. All you need to do is remove your unbelief, and then you say onto the mountain to move. And you don't say, God, please move my mountain. You say, mountain, move in the name of Jesus. So yeah, that's the truth behind the story. And people need to see your mountain move so that you can see their problem. If you just think about it this way, let's say you had a 14er, we call it in Colorado, 14er, 14,000 foot mountain in your view. And that mountain is yours. And that mountain is called, I'm not good enough. Okay. God can move that, and he's given you the ability to move it too. But just watch this for a second. All you see is that, regardless of what mountains are behind it, unless they're bigger. So if there's a 15,000 foot mountain behind it, let's say that mountain is called, I never have enough money, then you can see that person's problem, because their mountain is visible to you. But everyone else, it's shorter than yours, right? It's a lower height. So yours is taking up the space. Now, when we teach you how to break your mountain and to move it permanently, okay, and this happens by giving you clarity on why it was created, help you understand the naming behind it, the labels, it's labeling you, you might as well label it. And then from there, God does the rest, okay? Whether you're a believer or not, God does the rest. I'm just telling you this. And from there, what can happen is now you can see the people right in front of you who need you most. You can see your child who is constantly struggling with their confidence. But because you're hurting so much, thinking you're not good enough, you don't think you're equipped to help your child. That's what I would share with this group. And that's what I always make sure that needs to come out, is that people need to see you move your mountain, because when they see you move your mountain, they now become more aware of how it's possible.
Wow, man. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. It's almost like like when you get on the airplane and they tell you about the masks. When the mask drops, put your mask on first, then you put the mask on the other person. Oof, man, that's some good stuff. Adam, I am so thankful we got you on board here. We need to have you on again to see how things are going on in your business and your movement, and how you're helping folks out. And guys, again, we're going to leave his link on our captions here on the episode. Check Adam out in his program. And guys, thank you for listening in. We'll talk to you later.